So today I have a really, really exciting conversation with Blessing Abeng. She is a Forbes 30 under 30 awardee. She is the founder of an EdTech Non-Profit, and amongst many other things. And our conversation just was spread out on so many interesting topics. We talked about how she started off wanting to be a neurosurgeon. We talked about just the process and just how she felt when she got awarded by Forbes. We talked about her not-for-profit Ingressive For Good, and she talked and you know, she's a co-founder there, and she talked about just how they came up with their really, really audacious target of reaching 1 million people. She also then talked about, gives us a complete masterclass, what I call an A to Z guide on how to start your own not-for-profit. So if you're looking to start a not-for-profit, if you're looking to make impact, this podcast, this episode in particular, will help you make your way. Something else that we talked about that I thought was so good, something called building experience as an asset class. So you want to listen in, get your journals, and let's get straight into it. Hello, and welcome to today's installment of Created for More, the podcast. And today I guess that I have been stalking. I think it's fair to say, honestly, you should go and check her out and you'll understand that she's stalkable material.
That's a good one. I'm keeping it.
It's stalkable material. I absolutely love her brand, and it makes sense that she's, she's a brand. She's into branding and communications. Her name is Blessing Abeng, and she is a leading woman in the sector of branding and communications in Africa, and she has worked with impressive brands including Dark and Lovely, Sid Sisters, to mention a few. She's a co-founder of Ingressive For Good, which is an EdTech Non-Profit, increasing the earning power of African youth through tech. She's also the former CMO, which I'm thinking is Chief Marketing Officer, and co-founder of Disha, which is a tech startup acquired by an African unicorn, Flutterwave. And as a thought leader in her field, she uses her personal brand across social media to help creators find identity, build valuable brands, and sell themselves through branding and storytelling. What an impressive bio. Blessing, it's absolutely brilliant to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
On the show. And when I speak to people like you, you're a feast. That's how I see you. I literally see you as a feast because I love conversation. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, where do we start? It's just like all you can eat, and I'm like, oh my god, where do I go from here? But I would like for you to introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Blessing Abeng? What is the essence of you?
I mean, thank you so much for that question. I think what is really cool for me right now is recognizing that I'm trying to, whenever I speak about myself, I try to speak outside of work and not say all the things that I do work-wise, but just sort of focus on my why. And the simple why is that I really enjoy leaving people a little bit better, people and places a little bit better than I met them. And that's just really all that I stand for, in whatever ramification, in the social sense, in the, work sense, in every sense, really. It's just about going to places, meeting people, and just living it a little bit better than I meet it, or at least soaking up knowledge when I experience those spaces. I do enjoy experiencing new things. I enjoy conversations with new people, even old people, anybody. It's just really nice to experience things from a reality that is different from mine.
I was binging on you today, Blessing, and I found an interesting article. I don't even know if it was an article. It was kind of like a transcript, or probably it was an interview that you did on breaking the bias. And you were talking about, I think I found this really interesting piece where you said, when I move into a new space, the first thing people think is, what is this? Who is this small girl, and what does she have to say?
Very used to that one.
And I wonder, from your perspective, what role do you think it has played in terms of how you show up and what you give in everything that you do?
I mean, I think the most interesting part of it is just knowing that people just lower their expectations by default, right? And before, I used to think that was a bad thing, but then I realized maybe it's a superpower, right? Because I then work into spaces and then you're not expecting that much, and then what I would have done to make you sort of blown away, now you'll be blown away times 2 because you weren't expecting it. So that's how I've seen that has played out for me positively. Before, I used to be upset. I'm like, why are people not taking me seriously? But now, first, just by virtue of my name, a bunch of people just take me seriously because they've seen the quality of work and my track record. But even in spaces where people don't take me seriously, I'm not upset because I know that I'm confident in my abilities. And if you're not interested, you're lost. That's now how my brain processes that. So it's a great thing for me. I'm not complaining.
You're not complaining at all.
After all, I'm still a petite girl and I love it.
I love it. I love it. So it's interesting you just talked about track record there. And, obviously when I was reading your bio and I was talking about all these things, and track record, obviously I know your age. And I'm thinking, like, how have you amassed so many achievements in such a short span? Did you intend? Did you say, you know what, I am going to, do as much as I can, before I'm 30. Obviously, I'm speaking about, so actually, let me put a bit of more context around this. So Blessing was awarded, she is one of the honorees or was nominated. I don't even know how they phrase that. But anyway, awarded 30 under 30 by Forbes. And that is such an incredible honor. Like 30 under 30 Africans that are doing incredible things. So did you see that at 20? Did that influence the decisions you were making? How did that happen?
Absolutely not. I think that I need to just sort of credit my parents to a good extent because they had always just sort of instilled that value of excellence. They always, like the way that they raised us, we never believed that there was something that existed that we couldn't do. It was almost as though if I wanted to do something, I just had to do it. Like I was in control of my destiny and my future. So whatever becomes of my life is in my hands as long as I can. And that's not entirely true, right? Because whatever becomes of my life is not entirely in my hands. But there is an extent to which I can control, and so that extent that I can control, I just need to show up as my best self, do my best, be as excellent as is required, and just sort of show up in the way that I love to show up. So as a kid, I think I was in an interview earlier where I was like, as a kid I played basketball and I've repeated how tiny I am like a few times. So me playing basketball shouldn't be something I should be thinking about. But I never thought that there was anything I couldn't do. So I would jump in and I would play basketball. I would play volleyball. I would play badminton. I would play checkers. I would play chess. Whatever I need to do is like, I just want to figure it out, have fun doing it, and just be the best at it. And that played out really well for me. I think that one of the superpowers that I've also sort of developed is just putting one foot in front of the other and doing. Because truly, I did not expect that I would be CMO of a business that eventually got acquired, or I knew that I would do things excellently. I knew that I would be great at whatever it was that I did, but I didn't know specifics of what those things would be. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, I was supposed to be a neurosurgeon, roaming the streets as a doctor, and I just really wanted to save lives. And I always mentally just thought if I was going to be a neurosurgeon, I was going to be the best there ever was in Nigeria. That's how my brain just works. So all of the accolades coming with it, it's interesting to see that like the world also recognizes that I am, being excellent at stuff. But that was not the original goal. 2 years ago, I was interested in being Forbes 30 under 30. It didn't come. I mean, I got the letter that I was nominated, blah, blah, blah. I needed to fill a bunch of forms. I didn't get it. I wasn't listed. Nobody answered me. I filled the forms. What's it called? Like, I think there's a bunch of things you have to answer once you've been nominated, and I did all of that, and I just didn't get it. But the moment I shifted my focus from all of the accolades and just sort of started to focus on the impact of the work that I was doing, the impact in the lives, which to be honest, is the best accolade you can ever receive, right? Seeing how lives are transformed by the work that you're doing, it's mind-blowing. So I think just that focus on people and truly just making lives better, truly saving lives in a different form, which is not medical. It's just such an interesting journey. And I think that if more people would focus on just impacting one person, you would realize that one becomes 100, 100 becomes 1,000, and lives are just changing just because of an encounter with you.
When you got the news, what was the first thing you did? Like, how did you take it all in?
It's so shocking that I did not react how I thought I would react, because like when I wanted it, I didn't get it. But when I got the email, I think I was just waking up from sleep because I didn't really sleep that night. So I found myself sleeping in the afternoon, which is very unlike me. And then my husband taps me and is like, "Oh, you have a message." And I check it and I'm like, I think you've been listed on something like that. I wish there was like a message. I just closed it though. And I was quiet for a while. I was happy in my heart, but I was just quiet for a while. It was just like a zen moment, because I think at the back of my mind, it was just like, it's nice to see that the work that I've been doing has sort of not gone unnoticed. And until the moment, I think we weren't allowed to talk about it until the specific date. And then until the moment that I actually posted it, and then people started to send congratulations and like talk about it, and websites were taking it up and all. I do really think that it really dawned on me how big it was until like I started to get all of that, and just seeing people just feel inspired and feel like they could do it. That, I think that was even more uplifting for me, but it was such an honor. It was.
So at what point did you decide, this isn't for me, neurosurgery?
Oh, it was while I was doing my internship as a biochemist, and I was just like, nope. And like, nope, there has to be another way. This cannot, what? How do I tell people's families now that, oh, sorry, we lost the life of you? I mean, I did the best I could. How do I do that? I want to save lives, but of course I have to deal with the reality that there are going to be lives that I cannot save. How do I live? They will blame me. They will say it's me. I was the last person to touch their son or daughter's head and operate on them. No. So I needed to figure out a different way out, but it was going to take a lot of time in school, which honestly right now means I would have been in school still trying to figure out and that's not something that I wanted.
And it's a really, really interesting thing that I want to really quickly touch on before we move on, as to how, we have dreams at the start, and it's, it's all right to change. It's all right to change course. It's all right to get a new dream, get a new vision. And I just wanted you to just elaborate on that in terms of, just being able to just move from one thing to the other.
I think my biggest thing is like, it's okay to change your mind, and beyond it being okay to change your mind, it's okay to quit things. I think that we just sort of get stuck in this rat race where we just think we need to keep running with the same scripts all our lives, and I don't think that that's necessarily the reality of how life should be lived. I think that even films, like our favorite TV shows, there are seasons and then we get tired and we're like, they should end it now, and some of the best seasons are the ones that end on time. They just end on time, like at the point where we're expecting them to end, and it's great because they leave us wanting more. And when they go on to do the next thing, you can see like all of the lessons and everything they've taken from this particular journey into the next. So for me, my very first thing was that I wanted to save lives, and that was important to me. And so I think I reconnect. I was talking to my dad. I was having this conversation with my dad where I was asking a bunch of questions, and he was like, Blessing, there were times where you were in the hospital, like you were just roaming in the hospital. You're the smallest child there, just roaming around with his best friend, right, who was a doctor, Dr. Palua. And the man was just like, I was around doctors all the time,
Plus, I think a doctor had saved my dad's life when he, I think, had a snake bite or something like that. And so that just sort of made a big impression on me. And at the back of my head, I'm just like, I want to be a doctor. And I would go around telling people, don't call me Blessing, call me Dr. Blessing. Because I wanted to save lives at a very tiny age. And then growing up, I realized, okay, now I'm doing biochemistry as a pre-medical course so that I could go ahead and do medicine eventually. And then I would then go ahead and do surgery eventually, and then all of that different process that would be required. I was taking blood samples. I was interested in figuring out, how is it that there are people who are genetically mutated again, like they could function without ever getting HIV in their lives. Like there is a group of people like that. What do they have that I could take and genetically help other people who now have HIV to sort of either prevent those who don't have, prevent it, or those who have, like, to figure out how we can get rid of it. Like, I used to think about the craziest things, right? But then while I was doing my internship, I was also asking myself, this can't really be the only way to save lives. Like, the things that other people are doing doesn't even matter, and I started to dig deeper. When I went back to school, I was like, I joined a club. I think I was given this assignment to go write a business proposal or a business plan, and then self-taught, learned, figured it out, wrote it. People loved it so much, people started to pay me and hire me to write more. So I'm like, are business owners not saving lives? If they didn't exist, who would pay workers? The solutions that they're providing, does it not matter? And I just started to ask myself questions. And I think it's really important for everyone to get to a point in their lives where they question the things that they do. Don't just like go through the motions. Like, just ask yourself questions. This goal that I have, is it my dream? Has it changed? Did something happen? Did I watch it in a movie and I really liked it and I was like, this is what I want to become? Is it that I saw a celebrity do it and I'm like, I like how the celebrity looks while doing it? For me, for the longest time, I'd always thought that I wanted to live in a big house. Then I moved to a big house and I hated the experience. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to live in a big house. I want a moderately sized house. Which is really interesting because now I don't even stay home as often. Like, I'm never in a city for a month straight. I'm always traveling. So like, just realizing it's not that deep. Also, that always traveling thing affected my view on owning a lot of possessions, because when you're traveling and you need to move from one city to the other, you have to pack up stuff, and you now realize that it's only the same set of clothes you've been carrying around to the different places that you've been going to. So it's like, why not just invest in quality, have a bunch of things that matter? Like, so you just sort of, I don't know for a lot of people, but for me, when I'm making a lot of decisions, especially when they're repetitive, I now start to ask myself questions like, why am I doing this? Is there a better way? Can I optimize this into a system? How am I feeling about this? Have I changed my mind about this? Like, and I just sort of quiz myself enough to be sure that my why is my why and it's not somebody else's own. Yeah, like, my dream is my dream and it's not because I saw somebody do it, that's why I want to do it. Maybe that person gave me the permission to realize that I can achieve it, but does that mean that that's really what I want to do? That's something I need to have a conversation with myself about. And so those were things that were very helpful for me and my journey. And so at the point where I was saying, I think it was even a friend who walked up to me and said, Blessing, this thing you do with business plans, where your marketing plans are so dope, but your business is so, like, your business acumen is so deep. I really love it. Have you ever considered branding? Branding wasn't popular. I Googled it, loved it, decided to go to a school for it. Went to the school for it, realized, oh my God, this is actually something that I want to do. And then I started to take that really seriously. I started to argue with things that I was taught, and I was like, you know what? I understand why they would have said this, but I don't agree, and this is how I'm going to tweak it in my own reality and with the clients that I work with. And that has really been game changing for me, like experimenting, understanding the rules so I can break them, understanding the rules that are not meant to be broken. So I think that's just really similar to life. So just ask yourself, what rules in your life have you learned that you need to break? Do you need to work all of your life? Are there things that you liked that you had ignored? What are your superpowers? What are your strengths? What are things that you're really, really good at? What are things that you do in your sleep? What are things that people come to you for advice and help for, and it's so easy to you? Because those things that are so easy to you are not as easy to other people. until the day I baked bread myself, I didn't realize how hard it was to bake bread.
Ah,
I'm telling you, and then they're just people going out there just baking bread,
constantly.
different types. I'm like, what? Is it this hard? Yeah, so I'm like, so don't underestimate what it is that you know, and don't overestimate what other people know. What you know how to do is a superpower. Just zero in on it, make it awesome, and don't be stuck in the prison of your own dreams. You know, you can change your own door, you can change your reality, you can change the trajectory of your life.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think you've just given a complete masterclass in just moving from point A to point B. But because a lot of people get stuck. You see, they get stuck because they're wedded to an ideal. It's like, I've always said I will be. You know, if I give up on this dream, that means I've let my dad down. And you know, people can't move on, and it's all right to move on. So guys listening, make sure you take notes here. I want to talk about Ingressive For Good. I was looking on the website and I was just so fascinated. I saw the goal and I was like, the mission, the 1 million mission is like increase the earning power of 1 million African youth in tech through training and resources, and help them contribute to the African economy as a whole. And I just thought, that's such a big. You didn't say 1,000. You didn't say 10,000. You didn't say 100. You said 1 million. How did you arrive at that? At such a big vision to even voice it out and go beyond that to write it on a website and actually mean it.
So I'm going to just give full credit on this to Maya, who is like our third co-founder. So we're three: Maya, Sean, and I. And I won't lie, when we were writing the goals, I'm a big fan of tiny communities, small communities, boutique. I like small people, small spaces where you can sort of have that physical interaction with people. But Maya is a big dreamer. Maya is a, if it's not big enough to scare you type dream, maybe it's not worth doing kind of person. And so we aligned on the vision, we aligned on the structure, but you see these numbers, we went back and forth. But I mean, she said something and she was like, imagine what it would look like if 1 million people experience this. And that just made all of the difference. How many are we in Africa as a whole? 1 million is not a lot when you think about it in comparison to how many people actually live in on this continent, right? And if we could just change the lives of 1 million youths, or just even show them that the lives that they want is possible, then we're well on our way towards success. So I was really excited when she said it. We're all freaked out, but we're like, let's do it. And to be fair, we've been doing it. So far, we've trained 130,000 people. And when we say that, people are like, wow, that's a large number. But we're like, yeah, it is. But we have 870 to go. 870,000 to go.
But there's something in there to be said of having big dreams. Imagine if your dream was 150,000.
Would have hit it since now.
Then
by now, everybody would be chilling. We'd be like, yes, so bring it on. What next? But yeah, I mean, and one of the things she would always say is if you, or rather, we always say in the companies, if you aim for the stars, or if you aim for the stars, maybe you might land somewhere at the surface of the earth or on the moon, but at least the destination is far, right? If we really said 150k, we probably have been slower, we would have compromised on a lot, but now we're gingered to do more. And so even if we only train 200,000 people eventually, it's that's way more than we would have if we had just stuck with 100,000. Yeah.
No, I love it. So a couple of questions. First of all, what do you actually do? And then the second thing is, someone's listening to this podcast today and probably has been thinking about doing something, having some sort of NGO, just doesn't even know where to start. How would you give an aid to, what's that, NGO startup guide to dummies? Those books?
I get it. 100% get it. Okay, so first, what do I do as Blessing Abeng, or what do I do as Ingressive For Good?
What does your Ingressive For Good? What does
Okay,
Ingressive For Good?
so Ingressive For Good trains, or rather, our mission is to increase the earning power of African youths. But the main thing that we do is that we train African youths with tech skills so that they can, have access to jobs and just sort of be positioned to increase their earning power. And we focus on 5 core skills, right? So that would be software development, marketing, product management, data, and design. And when that is done, one of the superpowers that we've been told that we have is our community, the ability for us to sort of add value within communities, right? Where people feel like they're connected, they're seen, they're heard, they're loved, all of that, and supported while trying to achieve that goal. So somehow at the end of it all, we would share job opportunities, we would share opportunities in general, and a lot of people have been able to receive those opportunities. We've had people who have been hired by InterSwitch, Flutterwave. Some people have gotten jobs in Canada, Dubai, Germany, from different, we've trained people in every single African country, and we've just sort of had people start great businesses that are now valued at millions of dollars. We have community members who have been accepted into YC. It's such an interesting thing because we've just been around for 3 years. I know it's a lot to have achieved in 3 years. So it's really interesting to see the trajectory and the speed of growth. But if someone was to start, what is my first advice? Don't focus on what it is that you don't have. Ask yourself, what is it that I have that I can use to get me closer to where I want to be? And don't be obsessed with getting to the North Star immediately. Just ask yourself, what can I do today? Or what can I do every single day to bring me closer to my dream? And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to bring you to the dream, just a little closer, no matter how tiny that step is. Progress over perfection, right? It's just understanding that if I move from step 0 to 0.1 is way better than not moving at all. And so just figuring out what is it that I can do to move me closer to my dream. Another really important thing is just being very clear on what that dream is. You see, if you don't even know where you're going, it's going to be hard to get there. So be very clear on what that dream is. Be very clear on who that dream is for. You don't have to target everybody. A lot of times we start off wanting to just reach everybody. You see, even with this 1 million goal, after we did it, we packed it one side. Then we now asked ourselves, the first 6 months that we're starting, what's our pilot? What does our pilot goal look like? And that was so much smaller. I was we want to train 2,000 people. It was so small. But we surpassed every single goal that we wrote there that day. So we said we're going to train 2,500 or so. We ended up training 5,000. We said wanted to build a community of 5,000 people. We ended up with 10,000. We just had all this smaller goals that we had written down for 6 months. We even broke those smaller goals for 6 months into 1 month goals, just to sort of make it small enough that we could see it. And whenever we talk to our people, we think about them as one person. It's who is the one person that is reading this thing right now, and how can we engage them so that they can feel seen, heard? And if you've ever read any of our newsletters or our communique, any kind of information that we've put out there, almost feels like we're talking to one person. Because we really are, right? We're also very clear that 1 can bring 100, 100 can bring 1,000. And so just being able to get your 1 and speak to your 1 and just connect with your 1. Research is also really key. Don't just dive in blind. Ask yourself, the people who are listening, what do they need? What questions do they have? How can I meet them at the point of their need? What questions would they be Googling if they were looking for a solution? And would I pop up as that solution? How can I position myself to pop up as that solution? Don't target everybody. I like to use the example of fishing for a shark. If you're fishing for a shark, you would not go to a river or a swimming pool, because obviously sharks don't live there. But if you don't know what fish you're looking for, you can go to any water body. But if it's a shark that you said you're going to look for, you have to go to the water body where the shark exists, which would be a sea or an ocean or something like that. Also, if you are fishing for a shark, you're not going to use a worm as a bait. So it means you're going to have to figure out what baits would a shark pay attention to? What would they care about? Which would probably be like a bigger fish, a bloodied animal, probably, something meaty. So you have to also be very clear about what you would use to get their attention. But the only way we know that is because we know that is a shark we're looking for. And you would also be careful, the tool that you pick, the way that you would get there, the kind of boat. You don't use canoe because the shark might be heavier than the canoe and your canoe will capsize. Just think through all of the processes, the things you're going to need to do to catch and keep the shark. And so imagine that your target audience is a shark. If you don't know who that target audience is, you wouldn't know where to go and look for them. You wouldn't know what kind of baits will get their attention. You wouldn't know what kind of tools will reel them in. You wouldn't know what kind of device or tool you need to keep them when you finally got their attention. So you need to know who your target market is. It can't be everybody. Also, in seeking donations, don't.
I was going to ask about that next, actually.
In seeking donations, like, yes, it's a charity or it's a social enterprise, but at the end of the day, everybody wants something. Just really understanding what the intent is behind the person who would give, understanding what your donor profile is like. We've noticed that the people who give Ingressive For Good most money were Black people. They were people who were interested in Africa or interested in tech. They're mostly Black, mostly Africans, mostly interested in Africa or tech. We also had a lot of African businesses really donate to us and give money. But just understanding who is going to be most interested is helpful, so that you can ask them, when you're done with the conversation, you could easily just ask, like, is this something you see yourself donating to? If they say no, you ask why. If they say yes, you ask why. And then when they tell you why, you know what to double down on or what to change. You ask, even if you're not interested in referring, even if you're not interested in donating, are there 3 of your friends that you think might be interested in, supporting us? Those 3 friends, could you do an intro? Chances are, if they do the intro, it's going to give you a better leg in than if you were struggling by yourself. And when those people do the intros, what then happens is, like, you have better access, and they're thinking truly deeply about who is going to be interested in this conversation with you. So it gives you like this one leg up opportunity, right? And you can just sort of handle conversations better. You could also jump into conversations starting with questions like, oh, hi, really lovely to meet you. Why were you interested in taking this call? What was it that was really interesting about our organization to you? And they would tell you, and you could just sort of build on that while you're pitching. You could also ask, like, what kind of things are you interested in? What kind of impact are you interested in? Are you interested in Africa? This is what we're doing. Like, right off the bat, you would already know if someone is interested in investing in you or not. Also, like, seeking the right grants. If you were doing CSR programs, finding the right organizations that are aligned. So your the CSR program that you're going to suggest to them has to be aligned with whatever it is that you are doing in your company. So if we find tech organizations that are interested in training developers, that's like a synergetic, like, it's just symbiotic relationship. You don't have to be thinking twice about, does this work, does it not work? So there's just so many things that I think people need to do better in terms of, like, thinking about, when you're thinking about starting, be very data oriented and story oriented. Yes, the numbers, like, you need to have your numbers. Your numbers would give context for a lot of things, but then the stories would give depth for a lot of things. So when you say your numbers and you're like, we trained 130,000 people, that sounds okay, impressive. But then here's a story about Christabel, who used to sell soap and earn $40 a month, and then now she's a software developer who has encountered Ingressive For Good and is earning almost 10 times that money per month and provide. So it's like, yes, there's this person, but remember how I was talking about the company, and I was like, we have people who are in white sea, we have people who are valued at millions of dollars with the businesses that they've started. That gives you context. It's like 130,000 people, but see some of the success stories. Like, there's a guy who was a painter, couldn't find the art button on a keyboard. Today he's coding and he has a job in Canada. So it's like, these things are real stories that you can almost touch, right? And the only reason I can say them is because I know them. So do you know the stories and the transformation stories of the people that you're trying to impact? What's their story? Where were they before you found them? Where were they before they found you? How did they find you? Those kind of things. I just like, what is the transformation story? That's just really important. And just respecting your donors enough to give them updates, telling them what you're doing with their money, where you're at. I think that's awesome.
I think that's beyond awesome. That's fantastic. So I know you've got co-founders. Is this something that someone can do on their own, or is it always
100%? I think that I've seen a lot of people do it on their own, and they've been successful. I think the beauty in co-founders is just, and you can find this in a team as well, just having people around you that you can share the burden with. You can uplift each other. You won't always be strong. Don't let anybody deceive you. There will be low days. You will be tired. It's just a day that you just be like, oh my God, I'm tired. Yeah, you just need somebody to remind you that the reason why you're doing this in the first place, remind you about the impact. You just need another shoulder to just lean on and not be strong for a day, knowing that they would carry on. And I think that we found that in our team, just even beyond the co-founders, just like the team has been amazing. They have a way of just powering through it all and just showing up, and so that's great. So pick your team wisely and try to pick people who are as excited about the project as you are, about the cause as you are. Don't bring people who are not that interested, because the way that somebody who is passionate about the cause would react, like if you're doing a climate change project, find people who care about climate change. Your accountants should care about climate change. Your designers should care about climate change. And the energy is so different from when you just hire people randomly who don't care, who are just earning salaries. So try to hire people who care.
Love it. I came across, and this is on a slightly different topic, but I came across your interview with Seth Godin, and I was like, my jaw dropped, like literally. What?
Oh my God, that's funny.
What? And then I saw that you even had an ebook as well off that, and I thought that was just so creative in the way to use the interview to create this, freebie ebook. And I just wanted, like, how do you go about, like, the audacity of even saying?
I know.
How did that happen? I was like so curious.
I mean, I think I've been a big fan of Seth Godin for the longest time, and I read his books. I was interested in like a lot of the message that he was preaching, but I think I joined one of his events, like he was having with someone else, and he had said something. I don't even remember what it was, but I emailed him, and I was like, oh, hello. So I was on this event that you just had, and I don't necessarily agree with what you said, and we just had like I know, but I think it's okay to disagree with the people that you love and admire, right? Because they're human beings and they're not always right. But what I really appreciated was that he engaged me. He didn't feel like, oh, who is this tiny girl who is coming to disturb us with the, like, no, he was really open, and it just made me really respect him more. And so we didn't even agree at the end of the deal. We just ended up agreeing to disagree, and then before you know it, the conversation just sort of transcended into like, oh, would you be open to coming to have this conversation with me about blah 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 blah? And he's like, give me 3 dates, and I gave 3 dates, and he picked one, and we had the event. And when we're done, I'm such a big advocate. Okay, so I should also have this disclaimer. I'm such a lazy person. I'm very, very lazy. So I find systems.
I doubt that. Well, go on.
I think it's also a superpower, to be honest, because what it does for me is that I then find systems and I create processes to ensure that my success is replicable. And beyond that, I also just sort of ask myself, how can my content have 9 lives? Because every content should have 9 lives. So what is the other way that I can apply this in a different way, and a different way, and another different way, so that it can live longer than it should? I think about things like how Beyonce would always sing Single Ladies on almost every, like, I mean, how many years later it's like Single Ladies, and people are waiting for her to sing Single Ladies. It's like when Wizkid goes anywhere, people are just waiting for him to sing Oju and Legba. And he has had other songs So there's a nostalgic effect. They don't want you to sing Ojo Elegba exactly how how you sang it in the CD, because they could have bought the CD. Wow, I said CD. That shows my age. They don't want you to repeat it exactly how he just said, like how you sang it the first time. They want a bit of flavor. They want a bit of surprise. They want it to be familiar but surprising. And so, how can you take content that you create and do the exact same thing? One of the things I used to do back then is, if I join an event or I speak anywhere, I would record it and then figure out how to turn it into an article or a blog post, or like just make it something else and then make it something else, and then use the questions that are coming and then make that something else. And so with the ebook, I got the opportunity to do that with that little conversation, but also embed things that he had talked about in his book or in other contexts, and just be like, this is the context for this thing. Maybe you don't really know him before, so this is why he said this thing that he said. And it was just such a breath of fresh air. People wanted to be able to refer back, underline stuff, and that was really helpful for them. Also turned it into a podcast, also turned it into a carousel, also turned it into a newsletter. I went all the way. I did.
Have a conversation like that.
But this is not even just unique to that conversation. It's like there's been so many things that I would literally do that for, because repetition is important. So people need to hear it in so many different ways. I remember back then when I used to talk about consistency, right? I would talk about consistency and see how people can be consistent and blah, blah, blah. Well, until the day that I gave the example of, like, I think consistency is very similar to brushing your teeth. Like, that's something we're consistent at. Everybody says, oh, I'm not consistent at everything. But you brush your teeth, you have your bath. Why? Why you wake up in the morning and brush? And then I'm like, because even when you miss a day after brushing, you don't give up and say, I'll never brush again. Yeah, you brush harder the next day, or you just immediately remember, you jump in there, you get it done. So it's like, if you can do that with brushing, why can't you do that with everything else? Because that's truly how you stay consistent. It's not because you will not miss a day, but it's like, when you miss a day, what then happens? Do you give up completely? Do you shy away? Do you beat yourself up? Or do you come back, show up even harder? And I realized that changed a lot of people's perception about how they saw consistency and even how they saw themselves, because they're like, oh, but I bath, I eat, there's so much that I do, I sleep every day. If I can do these things consistently, even if some are pushed, like my body is literally pushing me, how can I develop that kind of discipline so that my body even pushes me to be consistent? It changed a lot of people's mindsets, but that only came because I kept finding newer ways and different ways to say the same thing. So same thing, with my content and my life.
Stretch it. Thank you so much. I have two more to go on for you.
Okay.
How would you like to be remembered?
This one is easy. And the reason why this is easy is because a lot of decisions that I make, I sit down and I think about it and I'm like, okay, if I had 1 more week to live, what would I do differently? If I had 1 more year to live, what would I do differently? What are things that if I died, I would regret? Can I fix them? If I can't fix them, do I need to forgive myself? Let go. If I'm about to make this decision, will I regret not making it? Will I regret not taking this opportunity? And so those things really guide me in just choosing the things that I decide to expend my energy on. So in thinking about remembrance, which is something that I do a lot, as I said, that's how I developed my mission. I just want to leave people a little bit better in whatever space that is. And if that's like, and that context is going to be different for my friends, for my family, and for, strangers that I also encounter. And they're going to have different types of stories. I'm already experiencing some through the works that I have done previously at Disha, Ingressive For Good, the agency that I started, running my community, all of those things. I'm already getting stories. I also get feedback from my friends, which is really dope. They would just message me sometimes and be like, oh, Blessing, you made me more expressive. This person you introduced me to changed my life. And so that's really great for me, and that's enough for me. And even if that's all that I'm remembered for, which is contribution in simple terms, just contributing and being a catalyst in some little way to make someone's life better, I think I'm very okay with that.
Oh, I love it. Blessing at 40. What should you be expecting?
See, this one is deep because God willing, I make it to 40.
You will.
40 has to be my year of enjoyment. So already I'm already on a sabbatical. I don't know if you know this, but I took a break from work. I am on sabbatical until September. I just believe that we did. I know. I just think that we didn't come to life to just walk and die. And people spend their whole lives working. I don't want to be that person. So I'm constantly trying to find like, what's the balance? I need to work and enjoy. There has to be balance. And so my 40th, I 100%, God willing, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't want to pretend and give any deep anything. I don't know what I'm going to be doing.
Philosophical
no, there's nothing philosophical about it. I promise you. But I just really expect that I would be enjoying, and I would be finding newer ways to channel enjoyment. Like, yes, I would be doing the impactful work. No matter what I do, even if I'm 100, I know that whatever I'm doing would be impactful, would be adding value to somebody's life. I know that I would be excellent at doing it, but I also really, really know that I'm going to be finding newer ways to enjoy this world and enjoy life and be with the people that I love, because life is short. It looks long, but nothing is promised as well. And so we can't keep postponing our enjoyment until retirement age or something silly. I think we need to just sort of take more control of our lives and say, I'm going to enjoy as hard as I work. And I'm going to build my experiences portfolio. I've been building this for a bit now. Everybody has portfolios on, these are the startups I want to invest in. This is my stock portfolio. This is my real estate portfolio. My own asset class, one extra asset class that I added was in experiences. I wanted to have different experiences, different types of experiences. I have bungee jumped. I am looking forward to flying a plane soon. I just want to have a bunch of experiences, be it high energy, low energy, but things that give me joy, things that are worth remembering. And I'm just going to invest more in that. Hopefully do more when I'm 40. Yeah.
Bungee jump.
Me too.
Wow.
I did. Hey God. Do you know the day before I bungee jump, that's how my husband saw news. Let me give you this gist. It's really hot. My husband saw in the news that he saw in the news that a woman had just died bungee jumping with her husband.
The day before you were.
The morning. No, not a day before. Wow. The day, that morning, that's when we saw the news that somebody had died the previous day bungee jumping, that the rope sort of wasn't tight enough or something. I'm like, what? So how am I supposed to jump this jump? How do I know my own rope is tight? It was crazy. But I think one big mantra that I've always had is doing it afraid. Like, if it scares me, that's the one that I want to do. And every time my husband would be like, yeah, are you scared? Does it freak you out? Oh yeah, go and do it. You're very good at doing things that scare you. And so that shows courage, because it's not always easy. It's not always not scary. But I still go ahead and I do it, because that's when the reward is even better. So yeah, bungee jumping was fun. I screamed. I have a video on my Instagram of me screaming and jumping down. That was fun. There's been so many other things that I've done that I'm so proud of and happy that I did. I mean, yeah, it's been great, and I'm so excited. It's exciting. It's really exciting.
I love it. We'll expect you to do some skydiving at some point as well.
Oh, skydiving for sure. That one is happening. I think this year or next year. It's already in the list. Yeah, I was gonna do it in Morocco, but I think the wind was too crazy or something. So they said they advised against it, so
thank
they
God
ruined
you
my
didn't
plans.
say, well,
but
if
by
I'm
now
afraid,
I have done
I
it.
will go ahead and still do it.
Oh no, please, everybody who is listening, safety, there are different types of fear. There's the fear that's protecting you from death. Please listen to that fear. Please don't put your hand inside fire. Just be careful, okay?
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. This has been such an insightful conversation. And my final question is to you: is everyone created for more?
I mean, I don't think everybody needs to feel that way. Wow. But this is the honest truth. Not everybody wants to feel like they were created for more. Some people just want to coast through life. And that's fine. If that's what gives you peace I don't think that everybody has to be exceptional. I don't think everybody has to be excellent. But if you're one of the few who cares about being excellent and exceptional, then this awareness is so important, right? Because you couldn't have just come to earth to just die. You have a role to play, like, and you playing that role might be very significant to someone else's journey. So I would always give the example that Charles Babbage had to do what he did for us to get to the level where we have a MacBook, and MacBooks had to exist for us to have smartphones, and smartphones had to exist for us to appreciate the internet, and the internet had to exist for social media to exist, for influencers to exist, for, like, think about all the people who now have income streams, for advertising agencies to exist. Like, imagine all of the industries that have been born because people decided to take a chance on what they believed in and their dreams and just created magic. Like, people can now build websites as a job just because the internet exists. What if the person who was supposed to build the internet did not do it? Where would we be? You know, and so just understanding that your destiny is tied to a lot of other people's destinies, and you being able to fulfill that destiny is critical for other people to live their own dreams and their realities. It helps, like, just understanding that you're not basic. You're not here to just live and die. There's so much you can be. There's so much you can do. The life that you want is possible. There's nothing that is out of your reach. When I set a goal, I ask myself, is there anybody that exists on this earth that has achieved this goal? If somebody says, oh, I want to earn $1 million a year, I'm like, that sounds very doable, because there are people who are earning $1 million a month. So, like, there's no reason why I should feel like it's not possible, because I can see that somebody has done it. So in my head, I'm just like, if you don't have the energy to even summon up the awareness by yourself, go and look for people who have done it and draw strength from them. And I think that could be game changing for anybody. It could be just sort of mind blowing. But again, if it's not in your jurisdiction and your power, don't pressure yourself. You don't have to be an overachiever. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be excellent. There are people who coast through life who are fine with just being normal. You know, you can be normal too. That's okay. But if you have chosen not to be normal, please, this awareness is important.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's brilliant having you. Thank you for giving us the literally A to Z guide on starting your NGO and just talking
My
us
pleasure.
through your Forbes 30 under 30 journey. Thank you so much for also honoring us by being here.
Thank you.
And, I absolutely enjoyed the conversation with you.
My pleasure.
I look forward to many more, hearing about your many other successes and your
Fingers crossed.
thrill-seeking adventures.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.